Okay, right. So on Friday, I asked you to do page 129, question 1 to 5. Okay, does anyone need me to do question 1? Does anyone need me to do question 2? Does anyone need me to do 3? 4?
Yes, please.
4, yeah. Right, so number 4. Find the first 4 terms of the first 4 terms of the series are 7, 10, 13, 16 plus ... Find S8, is it? S8. So I have to add up the first 7 or 8 terms. Okay, so you could literally write them out and add them all up if you wanted to, but I'm just going to use the formula. So n over Sn equals n over 2 times, it's a curly bracket, don't worry about that, that means the exact same thing as a straight bracket, as a roundy bracket, but it's just they put it in as a curly bracket because they have the roundy brackets here. Okay, right, so Sn, so A is the first term, A is 7, D is what you're adding on every time, so I'm adding on a 3 every time, so I'm going to get a Sn first. So Sn equals n over 2 times 2 times 7 plus n minus 1 times d is 3. Okay, so that's n over 2 times 2 times 7 is 14, right? I'm just going to bring the 3 to the front here so I multiply incorrectly, right? Okay, so that's n over 2 into 14 plus 3n minus 3, which is n over 2 into 3n, and 14 minus 3 is plus 11. Okay, now they didn't ask you for Sn, they asked you for S8. So S8, girls, means everywhere I see an n, stick in an 8. So n is 8 because it's the sum, n is the number of the term, so n is 8. So in here, so I have n over 2 times 3n plus 11. So that's 8 over 2 into 3 times 8 plus 11 into the calculator. With that, you can use regular brackets for these brackets in the calculator. So that's 24, that's 35, 35 multiplied by 4, 140. I'm open to correction. Okay, is that alright? So that was number 4 from last night's homework. Does anyone need me to do number 5? No, we're good. Yeah, do number 5. Okay, can I take this away? So number 5, write down the value of A. So 16 plus 12 plus 8 plus 4 plus ... Write down A and D and then find S24. So I want S24. Right? So A is the first term, A is 16. D is what you're adding on. Okay? But here I'm getting smaller, so I'm not adding on, I'm subtracting. So D is minus 4 because I'm going down in 4s. Okay, so D is minus 4. So then let's get Sn equals n over 2 bracket 2 times A plus n minus 1 times D. Okay, so Sn equals n over 2 times 2 times A is 2 times 16 plus n minus 1 times, now that's a minus 4. Okay, so that's Sn equals n over 2, 2 times 16 is 32. Now bring the minus 4 to the front, okay, and be very careful because you're multiplying in by a minus 4. Okay, so that plus by a minus becomes a minus, that's where that plus goes. Plus by a minus is a minus. You're multiplying in by minus 4, so be careful. So Sn equals n over 2 times 32 minus 4n plus 4. Okay, so that's, sorry, I'm stuck. So that's Sn equals n over 2 times minus 4n, and 32 plus 4 is 36. Okay, so the question was to get S24. So S24 means everywhere you see an n, stick in a 24. So it's 24 over 2 times minus 4 times 24 plus 36 into the calculator with that and press equals. Okay, that's 60 multiplied by 12 is 720, I think, but I'm open to correction. Okay, that's just calculator work there. Okay, any questions? Right, I'm sticking with more of the same for today. Okay, so I'm not moving on to a new section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 4 examples, and then I'm going to let you off. Okay, so if you tell me what example I finished on my in the notes the other day, I'll call this will be the next example. So did I do 2 or 3 last time?
I think you did 2.
So I'm on to example 3. So example 3, girls, it's actually number 6, right? Okay, so in an arithmetic sequence series even, right, Tn, so they're not giving me Sn, they're not adding any terms, they're just telling me to get any terms. So this is what I did in the previous section. Tn equals 5n minus 2. Find the values of a and d and hence find S16. Find a and d and hence find S16. Okay, so remember, girls, hence means use your answer, right? So hence means use your answer to the first part. So that means use A and D to do S16. Okay, right. So let's write out some of the terms. In an arithmetic sequence, Tn equals 5n minus 2. So that means the first term is 5 times 1 minus 2. So this is what we did in the last section, right? So into the calculator that and you get 3. Term 2 is equal to 5 times 2 minus 2, which is 8. Term 3 is equal to 5 times 3 minus 2, which is 13. Okay, I think I have enough now. Okay, so the series is 3 plus 8 plus 13 plus ... I have enough done out. Okay, so then A is the first term. A is equal to 3. And D is the common difference. D is equal to what you're adding on every time. So I'm adding on 5. And it's getting bigger, so it's plus 5. Okay, so then before I get S16, I'm going to get Sn. So off I go to my log tables and I get my formula for Sn. So Sn is equal to n over 2 times 2a plus n minus 1 times d. Okay, so fill in. Sn is equal to n over 2 times 2 times a is 2 times 3 plus n minus 1 times d is 5. Okay, so that means Sn equals n over 2 times 2 3s are 6, and then just bring the 5 in front, so you multiply everything in the bracket by 5. Okay, so that would be Sn equals n over 2 times 6 plus 5n minus 5. So that means Sn equals n over 2 times 5n plus 11. Okay, is it okay if I move it up a small bit like so? Right, they didn't ask me for Sn, girls, though. They asked me for S16. So S16 means I take the formula for Sn. Yes?
Would 6 minus 5 be 1?
Yes, it would. I read that as a 16. I'm so sorry, that's a 6. Can't read my own writing, but you can, so that's great. Right, okay, so sorry, that's a 1. Thank you. Right, okay, so it's 5n plus 1. Right, and I want S16, so that means everywhere I see an n, stick in a 16. So 16 over 2 into 5 times 16 plus 1 into the calculator. With that, as I say, the curly brackets, you could just type them in as regular brackets. 5 16s, that's 81. 81 multiplied by 8 is 648. I think I'm open to correction, but it's only calculator. Okay? Sorry. Right, ready? For example 4, which is number 7. Okay, so it says, here's a series 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus dot dot dot. Okay, so it says find Sn, and then it says I'm going to put hence find 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus all the way up to 100. Okay, so here's my series, find Sn, and then it says hence find 1 plus 2 plus 3 all the way up to 100. Okay, so I'm going to do this bit first. So to find Sn, I need A is the first term, which is 1. D is what I'm adding on every time, which is 1. Okay, I'm adding on 1 every time. So off I go to my log table to get my formula for Sn. n over 2 times 2a plus n minus 1 times d. So fill in for a and d. So Sn equals n over 2 times 2 times 1 plus n minus 1 times d is 1. Okay, so here I'm just multiplying into the bracket by 1. If it's okay, I won't write it in front, I'll just multiply in. So that's n over 2 times 2, multiply in there, 1 by n is n, 1 by minus 1 is minus 1. So that's n over 2 times n, and 2 take away 1 is plus 1. Okay, then for the second part, now they haven't find the sum, they haven't, normally they say find S16 or S20 or whatever. They haven't said what to find S in, but you do know it's gone up as far as 100. So that means there's 100 terms. So that's another way of asking me to find S of 100, to find the sum of the first 100 sequences, or first 100 terms, to find S100. Okay, So that means Sn equals n over 2 times n plus 1. We want to find S100, so that means everywhere I see an n, stick in 100. So that's 100 over 2 times 100 plus 1 into the calculator with that, and that's 50 times 101, which would be 5050. Okay, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, now example 5. Sorry, are you ready for me to cover it over? Scream if you're not. Scream if you're not. Example 5. So right, so example 5 says it is minus 4, minus 2, plus 0, plus 2, plus dot dot dot, and they said Sn of this series, Sn of the series find the value of n. Okay, so basically they started adding the terms. So they added S1 plus that, plus that, plus that, plus the next one, plus the next one, plus the next one. And they kept adding until they got to 84. So they added them all up and stopped when they got to 84. And you want to know how many terms did they add? That's the question. So they basically, so before we would have got the answer, we would have added 20 terms and got 84, or added 50 terms and got 84 or whatever. But now they're saying how many terms did we, so it's the same but it's backwards. So how many terms did we add to end up with 84? So same first step anyway. A is the first term, minus 4. D is what you're adding on every time. So to go from minus 4 to minus 2, I added on 2. To minus 2 to 0, I added on 2. 0 to 2, I added on 2. So D is 2. Okay, so then let's write out Sn. So Sn, the formula is n over 2 times 2a plus n minus 1 times d. Right, so that's n over 2 times 2 times minus 4 plus n minus 1 times 2. Okay, tidying that up, that's n over 2 times minus 8 plus, multiply in here by 2. So normally I write the 2 at the front, but now I think we're okay to just multiply in by the 2. So 2 by n is 2n, 2 by minus 1 is minus 2, and sorting that out, we have n over 2 into 2n minus 10. Okay, so just putting minus 8 minus 2 is minus 10. Okay, right, but we know we filled in something for n, we filled in a number for n, and we ended up with 84. Now, I suggest, I'm going to do it the algebra way next, okay, but I suggest you, if the algebra way, when you see it, it mightn't suit you, mightn't be your strong point. So you could guess, girls, and you could start putting in a 20 and see how you get on, right? If it was too many, go less than 20. If it was a number that was too much, like if you put in a 20 there, you'd get 2 times 20, 40, 30, 10 times 30, get 300, way too much. So then maybe try, go way down, put in 10. And I think I'm still too many. do you know what I mean? Do trial and error, it's called. Okay, but this is how you do it with algebra. You go n over 2 into your bracket. I'm changing that to a roundy bracket now, right? N over 2, right, into 2n minus 10, and the answer you got, so you filled in something for n and you got 84. Okay, so that would be 2n squared, multiply into this bracket, n over 2 times 2n is 2n squared over 2. Here it's minus 10n over 2 equals 84. Okay, divide these by 2, that would be n squared minus 5n minus 84 when you bring it across equals 0. Right, once you get to here, girls, you can use the minus b formula or the two sets of brackets, you factorize. Okay, I know some of you are big fans of the minus b formula, so minus b formula from here, right? N and n, factors of 84 to give me 5 is 7 12s, and minus 12 plus 7 will give me, so on the inside I have 7n, on the outside I have minus 12n, and that'll give me minus 5n, which is my middle term, which means I'm right. Okay, then you let each term equal 0, so n plus 7 equals 0, so that means n is equal to minus 7. You can't, n is the number of the term. There's no minus 7 term. You have term number 1, 2, 3, 4. You can't have anything less than 0. The other one, n minus 12 is equal to 0. So you get n is equal to 12. Okay, so that means you added up the first 12 terms and you got 84. Okay, but as I say, girls, back to here, right, back to there. Start substituting in numbers for n to see can you end up with 84, right? So, 1 is going to be too small, 2, 3, 4. Just start guessing if this is if you find this too hard. Okay? Is that right? I have one more example to do. Right, okay. And I'll be finished then. If you're getting a bit.
Miss, could you move down the board?
Yeah,
so I
sorry.
can see the answer.
Up this one? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Right, okay. One more example. So the next example, girls, has a picture in it. Okay. Right, okay. So this is example, what am I? Example 6? No. Example 7. Wait, now let's see. Example 6. Example 6. Okay, so example 6 gives me a picture. So this is term number 1. Okay, these are boxes. Then it goes so it basically joins on here. Sorry, this is I'm not drawing anymore. Okay, there's another one drawn. It's on page 130. This is question 9. Okay, they drew in another one, but I'm not drawing it. Okay, and if you can't make out the diagrams from my diagrams, look it up there on page 130. Okay, here are some patterns made of squares. The diagram on the right shows the pattern that shows part of the pattern, right, number 4. Copy and complete pattern number 4. So, alright, pattern number 4 is part of the question. I better draw it. Okay, so continuing on there. Okay. My drawing, I'm so artistic. It really shows. Right, pattern number 4. Okay. How many squares are there in pattern number 6? Okay, so let's count, right? So that's number 1 is pattern number 4, right? Then it says pattern number 6, how many squares? So in the first pattern we have 4 squares. In the second pattern we have 1, 2, 3, no, in the first pattern we have 5 squares. Right, you're in bother, girls, your maths teacher can't count. 5. Next pattern I think there's 9 squares, is there? Feel free to correct me. In the next pattern that's 5, 5 and 4 makes 9 and 4 makes 13. In the next pattern there's 17. Right, I have the pattern now. I'm going up in 4s. So 5, 9, 13, 17, 21, 25. I'm going up in 4s. So this is term number 1, term number 2, term number 3, term number 3, term number 4, term number 5 and term number 6, which is what they asked me for, term number 6. Is that alright? Okay. Find an expression for the pattern in n. So keep going up as far as n. Right, this is Tn, girls. I haven't added anything. Right, okay. So this is Tn. I'm looking for term number n. So T for term. So that's the other formula we were using, A plus n minus 1 times D. Okay, so this is where you start getting mixed up. Are they asking me for the term or are they asking me for the sum? T for term, S for sum. So if they're asking you for a term, it's the Tn formula. If they're asking you for a sum, it's the Sn formula. Okay, A is the first term, which is 5. D is what I'm adding on every time, which is a 4. Okay, so fill in here. So A is 5 plus n minus 1 times 4. So that's 5 plus 4n minus 4. When I multiply in, I didn't write it in front, I just multiplied in. So that would be 4n plus 1. Okay, so that's not the sum, that's going back to the previous section. Okay, then how many squares are there in total in the first 20 patterns? So how many squares are there in total? They want you to add up. So add up, girls, is Sn. So they want you to add up and they want you to find S20. Okay, so I'm going to get Sn first. So that's the formula in my log tables for the sum, right? So that would be n over 2 times 2a plus n minus 1 times d. So a and d are the same. So that's n over 2 times 2 times a is 5, 2 times 5, plus n minus 1 time and d is 4. Okay, so multiplying that out, that's n over 2 times 2 times 5 is 10. Multiply in here by 4, that's 4n minus 4. That's n over 2 times 4n, and 10 minus 4 is plus 6. But they didn't ask me for Sn, they asked me for S20. So that means you take your formula for Sn and everywhere you see an n you put in a 20. So that's 20 over 2 times 4 times 20 plus 6, and that would be 860. Okay, so into the calculator that and you get 860. Okay, right, homework is page 130. I do 10 to 14, please. So page 130, 10 to 14. Okay.